Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. So first up for T&D today, we have my 1976 Farskrus Father's Mug. I don't really know where they got it, but a bunch of people in my D&D party had gotten these for us, and I think they're hilarious. It's a good little mug. It's like the right size for something like this, honestly. And inside of it, I have the Wildberry Zinger that I've had before on this show from Celestial Seasonings. Again, very, like, berry-y. It makes sense, obviously. But I would liken it most to, like, almost black/raspberry tea. It's pretty good. I like it a lot. Obviously, I know berry tea isn't for everybody, but I do very much enjoy it. So I highly recommend checking it out if you are into fruitier kind of teas, because I think that it tastes quite nice. And no caffeine, so it's a nice thing to have sort of at the end of the day. It is like a richer kind of taste as opposed to like a lighter one that you might want in the middle of the afternoon or something like that. So it will help you start to head towards bed, I guess, if you need to. So anyway, getting into what we are actually talking about today. Today's a little bit of a weird one. I don't have an exact plan for what I want to talk about. I just know the things that I kind of want to say. So stick with me on this. But we are talking today about Lou Wilson, the college humor / Dimension 20 player. Everything that he does is good at and is, a good role model for. So to start off, I, for a while, would tell new players to look at, like Laura Bailey, Sam Riegel, Liam O'Brien, Travis Willingham in particular, that kind of person for inspiration for, how to approach a game as a new player. And ever since I started watching Dimension 20 and whatnot, my mind has slowly been changing, and I think it has finally flipped fully to be Lou Wilson as sort of, like, in my head, the ideal role model for a new player. And I'm going to get into why here. So, my go-to really, depending on the type of player that they wanted to be, the type of game that they were going to be in, usually was for them to watch Travis Willingham, because Travis, so often, was just excited about stuff. He was excited. He wanted to be there. He was amped about everything that was happening. Everything that was happening was novel and new to him, and he showed it. And that is a really good sort of like thing for a new player to get in their head. They're allowed to be excited. They're allowed to be hyped up about stuff. They can break their character in order to get super psyched about something. That's totally fine. And so I would always try and push people towards watching Travis, even if they only consumed a few episodes of Critical Role, because Travis was so good at that. Now, in having watched Dimension 20, all of it that has existed so far, everything as it comes out and everything like that, I genuinely believe that Lou Wilson is better as like that kind of role model now. I will say Dimension 20 is less accessible than Critical Role is because it is behind that dropout paywall. However, you can find the first season of Fantasy High and I believe the first season of Unsleeping City on YouTube for free for everybody. So definitely go check that out. That is not to say that Travis is not, incredible at what he does. Travis still is top half, if not my absolute favorite character at the Critical Role table. But Lou Wilson. I'm not going to get into really any spoilers, I don't think, for the Dimension 20. There will probably be one, but it is the end of the first episode of the first season of Fantasy High, and that's it. But if you have seen Dimension 20, then you know what I'm about to say here. Fabian Seacaster, Kingston Brown, King Amathar of House Rocks, Whitney Jammer, now Gunny Miggles Rashbacks, and I am listening to NADPOD for the first time. I have been cruising through it. I just finished out the arc where he was on in Season 2, where he played Jabari Hightower. And that is, I think, the thing that really just sort of pushed it up over the top for me. All of those characters are they are their own entity, they're their own thing, but there is so much of Lou in each of those characters. And so many first-time players will create characters that they can relate to inherently and ultimately become kind of like fantasy-ish versions of themselves, not necessarily like carbon copies, but so many of them do that ultimately. And Lou puts so much of himself into each of these characters, different like parts of himself, different aspects of himself. He really funnels into them, but he draws on a lot of his own experiences, so often it feels like, to create these characters and to play these characters. Obviously, he has never been a king of a candy kingdom made of candy and all of that. He obviously has also not been the son of a pirate or anything like that. But he found aspects of those characters to make his own, to really sort of draw from that internal experience that he has, and to really sort of ride into it. If you pay attention to Adventuring Academy, which I don't listen to a whole lot of, I really should listen to more of it, but he is on like the first or second episode, and he has a really good conversation with Brennan about his sort of transition into playing D&D. And it's a lot more recent than I expected it to be. Lou has always struck me as somebody who's been playing the game for a long time and just sort of like hung on to that, early charm that you sort of get off of it. But he is somebody that has actually been playing for not as long as I expected. Still, has many years under his belt. He is a trained actor and all of that, good writer, but he is not somebody who has been, sitting down to roleplay for 20, 30 years like Brennan and Matt have been from, Dimension 20 and Critical Role, respectively. So, he and Travis both bring that same kind of like joy and new player energy to the table. I would love to see them together at a table. That would be amazing. But he is a never-ending hype train, honestly. And that is the kind of player that you want to have at your table. Somebody who is so excited about everything that is happening, no matter what. Somebody who just gets amped about everything that happens. Now, here is the spoiler for the end of the first episode of the first season of Fantasy High. If you don't want me to spoil this, it might be the second season, or second episode, actually. I can't remember which one. It's been a little while since I watched it. One of those two. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't watched it yet, skip forward like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, something like that. If you go and watch the clip of when Brennan is describing the Principal Eggfort, like, shooting himself and the guidance counselor in the head, he is out of his chair, screaming his head off, freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on, laughing the entire time, like, hysterically. And it is just such perfect, pure new player energy that I adore it with every fiber of my being. And I hope to God that he never loses that, because it is, in my opinion, the most charming thing about him at a D&D table. So, that is the spoiler thing that I'm going to say pretty much entirely here. Just the range that he displays without having to go so far outside of his comfort zone, or his apparent comfort zone, in all of these different characters is amazing to me, because King Amethar is sort of like this reserved, drawn back kind of individual. Fabian is somebody who obviously needs to go through several changes in order to come into his own. Kingston Brown is somebody who is sort of like older and grizzled, knows what he's doing. He's the guy that has been around the block a few too many times, probably. Whitney Jammer is confident. He is charismatic, and he is a leader in his own right. Gunny has been this incredible support character throughout the entirety of Starstruck Odyssey, while maintaining this sort of like bullheadedness almost that got him into his situations in the first place. And Jabari Hightower was hands down the funniest character to me in that entire arc that they played. He is hysterical. His one-track mind makes it. I am so happy that Caldwell had a baby during that time, and they had to, quote unquote, bring Lou in to fill the seat and to start a different arc in that period, because God, was it so funny and so entertaining. That man knows how to play some D&D top to bottom. One of the other things that I really appreciate about Lou, as a DM looking at it, and as somebody who looks at it as sort of inspiration for players, is that while Lou knows all of the rules, and he's very good with the rules, he doesn't focus on the rules. He focuses on the game that is being played and the story that is being put forth in front of him. And this point here is in no way to bash any other players at those tables that he plays at, or tables in general, because I am somebody who focuses super heavily on the rules and tries to keep them in my brain and tries to use them to my advantage as much as possible, while also, being aggressively honest about them a lot of the time, the same way that like Sam Riegel will do every once in a while. But like he doesn't look for like extortions within the rules. He doesn't look for those loopholes. He just is aware of the rules, knows how to operate within them, and just does his thing. And then when somebody else does something that's crazy and within the rule set, but has like used one of those loopholes, he gets so excited for them. He is so amped up about it, and he is there to like make sure whatever happens with them goes off without a hitch. And he is the ultimate supporting player in those kind of situations. And that is something that you genuinely just don't find all that much, because so many people want to have that hero spotlight. And that's not bad. Like, having the hero spotlight is kind of the point of D&D. But either you're a player who is really, really leaning into the like hero arc, or you're a DM who doesn't get to play that much and you want to have that moment in the spotlight. So you just don't really think about, being the like core pillar of support necessarily for somebody else that is doing something incredible in that moment. And he does it in such a way that doesn't steal the spotlight at all. He will lend his support, he will lend the hype, he will lend everything like that without even beginning to take the spotlight away from whoever it is, which is the thing I think that it makes it so much better. It's so perfect in the way that he does it, and it's really kind of hard to put into words. You just kind of have to watch it and understand it, because what he does is genuinely amazing. And that is something that I personally believe that everybody, particularly new players, should see and take in and try and internalize as part of their play style, because he gets his big moments in the spotlight too and everything like that, and everybody else is there and hype for him as well. But he is such a good person to have as a support for those moments, those little moments that just make the game so much better. It's so good. And I love getting to watch that. I love getting to see it every time it comes up. I think that he deserves more, honestly. I wish that they happened more often for him, because he delivers every single time, even if he isn't in a position really to deliver on them. So Lou Wilson, watch him. Just watch him play. Honestly, I would say that while I adore Critical Role, and it will forever, obviously, as I am wearing a shirt, that a Critical Role shirt and a Critical Role hoodie at the same time, have a place in my heart that is beautiful and perfect. I genuinely think that Dimension 20 has a table that makes more sense for more people, because each of the players at that table have this sort of role that they fall into and fill. And they do like cycle them through depending on what characters they're playing, but for the most part, they understand their place at the table and really sort of lean into it. Like, Emily will go for power plays over and over again. Murph will go for like trying to keep all the rules straight. He helps Brendan with some rulings here and there, trying to keep everybody kind of honest at the same time. Siobhan will go for like these crazy support builds a lot of the time. Zach is just fun to have around, and Lou is the hype man always. Of course, Beardsley is just an agent of chaos, and honestly is kind of the swing in there. They are all over the place, and I love getting to see them play, because them plus Lou is always a fun thing to get to watch. And so having Lou there as the hype man as well really helps support all of those other roles that everybody has, because even if you are playing like some kind of support role that normally doesn't get much spotlight or anything like that, when you lend something to someone else, he will jump in and he will be psyched for you to be able to do that. And I think that that is a rare thing in D&D, and I love getting to see it. whenever it comes up, in particular on such a major platform like Dimension 20. And I think that more people need to internalize that, because it's just good. It's just good, right? That's all it is. I think that's everything I want to say on that one. Lou Wilson, in my opinion, the best person to recommend new players watch. Just the best. He gets excited. He knows the rules. He knows how his characters work. He asks for help when he needs it. He lends his support. He lends all of his hype. Lou Wilson. Poster child. Moving on from there, we have the shows that we have today. It is Monday, so we have quite a few shows today. Starting from the top, we have The Paper Dungeon, Chromatic Dice, Beyond the Realms, Unprepared Casters, Greetings Adventurers, Bards of New York, Hapless Heroes, Iron Adventurers, Cast Party, Three Black Halflings, Hello from the Magic Tavern, King Leo D&D, Anti-Heroes Anonymous, and the Tabletop Tavern. Please go check them out. Please let them know that I sent you, because at some point here, somebody will do that, and they will say something to me about it, and I will think it's hysterical, and it will mean that I actually helped some other show, get some more audience members, and that's something that I want. Yeah. So anyway, that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. Thank you so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron of the show, there is a link to my Patreon in the description of this episode. I think that's everything. So with all that said, don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.